All right, go ahead, Shafi.
SDLC means software develop life cycle, and
Okay.
STLC means software testing life cycle.
Okay, good, great. So that's what it stands for. Great. So what does SDLC ensure? What does that mean when we say SDLC, software development lifecycle?
That's involved with the developer.
I'm sorry, say that again.
No, you said SDLC, right?
Yeah, what is SDLC? You said it's software development lifecycle. What does that mean?
That's mostly related with the developer.
It's mostly related to the developer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does STLC stands for?
Means how they develop the soft application. Software development life cycle.
You said SDLC, right? What about STLC? Yeah. Software testing. What does STLC?
Software testing life cycle.
Okay. So you said SDLC has to do with mostly how the developers work, right?
Yeah, and STLC is related with the QA, like how they're gonna be, like a test plan, right?
Okay.
STLC means software testing life cycle, like how we gonna be test, who gonna be test, like.
Okay, sounds good.
What we're gonna be test, like manually or automation, like all the plans.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Dola, Sunil, you guys want to try answering the question?
Sure. Yeah. So software testing lifecycle.
First, tell me what is SDLC, what SDLC stands for, what STLC stands for. How do we define SDLC? How would we define STLC?
So software development lifecycle pretty much is like the steps that you're following in order to figure out like what do you need to like what is the client asking for and what steps you're going to take in order to go ahead and complete the task. So for example, like I know we talked about like requirement gathering, requirement analysis. We talked about like application designs, coding, and then testing and implementation and then maintenance. So it's like steps like broken into groups where you are going to be utilizing and like different steps you're going to be doing different things. So that's what SDLC stands for. And then STLC stands for so that's what Baya actually said, like what the for developers. So they're going to be following that. Within that, we're going to be using, that's where STLC comes from, which stands for like software testing lifecycle, which is what QAs, the steps that QAs use in order to like that's what their job is. So they're looking at like while they're sorry, hold on. Let me just gather my thoughts really quickly. While in SDLC, STLC is what QAs are using, same method as like different steps, but what are they doing in each step? Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, good. Good answer. What about you, Sunil? Please try to answer the same. What does SDLC stand for? STLC stands for, and please define both terms.
I mean, it's similar to what both of the people ahead of me said already. SDL stands for System Development Lifecycle, and STLC stands for Software Testing Lifecycle.
Okay.
SDLC has 5 stages that the developer uses to create whatever software or application that their client is asking them to do so. and it's just the standard protocol that I guess most developers use to accomplish this task or sprint or whatever the task is. And then STLC is what we would do as QA engineers to ensure that whatever is being developed and asked for by the client is actually being done, and figure out what bugs are there so that the development team can correct them.
Okay, sure. So good. I liked everybody's answers. The reason is the understanding is there. So you guys have you guys really understand the concept. That's what I wanted to check. So what you should. Okay. So what SDLC stands for, I said software development lifecycle, right? Where everyone said it's a life cycle for the developer. That's not 100% correct. It is life cycle. It's a life cycle for the software. It's a development process, right? To ensure we're developing a correct, bug-free, which we're attempting to develop a bug-free, defect-free software for quality and correctness. So remember I said that if somebody asks you, please, define in your own word, what does SDLC stands for? I said that usually when I go to the interview and they ask me this, that this is my understanding. What SDLC, since SDLC is the life cycle for the whole software, right? Within that, we have STLC, developers have their own life cycle, business analysts have their own life cycle, CM configuration managers have their own life cycle, right? And then DBA have their own life cycle. Everybody has a life cycle. They perform certain activity and they get certain results. In our case, what do? We know what our stages are broken into, right? Which comes into STLC. So first, SDLC is SDLC stands for software development, like the developing process to ensure we're developing a correct software as per the requirement. That's a simple definition you guys can say. SDLC stands for software development lifecycle, which is the, the whole life cycle from A to Z, developing the correct system. So SDLC has requirements, has business and analyzing analyzing requirements, testing, developing, sending it to production. Everything is within that falls under SDLC, which is the 7 phases, right? Identify, requirement phases, then it's development phases, requirement, design, development, testing, pre-prod, production. Everything we spoke about so far, right? All this actually about 7 phases. STLC is software testing lifecycle. What is software testing lifecycle? It's a testing lifecycle where we analyze the requirements, right? We analyze the requirements and then we analyze the requirements. So I said this, right? So this is the phases, right? Development, requirement gathering, the architecture is built, application design, coding happens, testing. So it's not so much about, okay, you know what, the phases are broken down to what? They're basically broken down to analysis, planning, designing, implementation, testing, operation, maintenance. So if somebody asks you, tell me the 7 stages of SDLC, or tell me they want, I don't think in my personal experience, interviews I face, they never mention, okay, you know what, here's the 7 phases of SDLC, or these are the phases of SDLC. They will rather tell you, okay, these are the phases of SDLC, which are what? Analysis, planning, designing, implementation, testing, operation, and maintenance. So you can either say, okay, it's requirement gathering and planning, requirement gathering, designing, development, testing, production, and maintenance. See, so you can break it down that way. So either way, you could say it either way. It doesn't have to follow this phase where it says requirement gathering, requirement analysis, architectures, which basically means designing, and then application design. Architecture and application design can be same thing, and then you have development, testing, and then implementation, also another word for production. So when we're pushing, basically what we're doing, we're moving in the real life, what we're doing, moving the code from one server to another server. When the code is sitting on testing server, just like we have testing environment, the code sits on testing server, is moved to UAT. From UAT is moved to staging, which is pre-production, and then it's moved to production. So the code is built in chunks, and it's just being moved from one server to another. And who does that? Who would move the code? Anyone knows? Can anyone help me with that answer? Who moves the code?
Developer, programmer.
Developer moves the code. Okay. Anyone else? Who would move the code from one server to another? Who's responsible to making sure the environments are up and correct? They're running, they're running properly.
Would it be like the project managers? I'm not sure. I'm guessing.
I'm sorry, somebody said something else. Go ahead, Sunil, you were saying something?
No, that
PM,
was
PM.
I was thinking the DBA would move it, but I'm not sure.
Or the DBA would move it, and somebody said PM. Any other guess?
Yeah, I think the project manager.
You guys
project
just
manager, I
you
would
guys
say.
are choosing all the different roles. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I have another. Okay, I have another. Okay, how many members usually are in a team? Can you guys name the titles of people and team in the team? Who can tell me, guys?
There's project managers, there's scrum masters, there's QAs, there is business analysts, stakeholders. Well, but they're I think
Okay,
that's it, right?
BA,
Developers.
Deb. Okay. Okay, BA, Deb. Who else you said?
Project managers, then scrum
PM.
masters,
Okay, Scrum Masters.
stakeholders.
You already said BA, Scrum Master and BA, same thing. Scrum Master,
Oh,
okay. Anyone else?
The product owner.
Product owner, that's Agile. Okay, anyone else? Handwriting is terrible. Okay, so how do we? Anyone else, guys? So you said BA, this, let me minimize this. Let me do new sharing with you guys, okay? So you said QA, right? QA. Oh, damn it, you guys can see that my handwriting is horrendous. QA. So it all falls. So BA has been, the name has been changed, right? To Scrum Master, and then there's product owner. That's Agile. But who are the people in team? That's what I want to know. You said PM. Somebody said DBA. Did anyone say DBA, or did Sunil say DBA, or am I? Okay, say DBA, right? DBA. Who else? QA, BA, PM, DBA. Who else? Who else, guys? You said Deb. Who else? Anyone else?
Not sure. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, so the QA, what does the QA do? What's the job of a QA? Primary role.
To find defects.
To find defects in testing, right?
Yeah.
Find defects and testing. Okay. And then what's the job of a BA, business analyst?
Gather the information.
Gather what? Gather information. Okay. What else? What about PM?
Review.
What does a PM do? What does a PM do, guys? What's the job of PM?
PM take a whole project,
Takes care of whole project. What do you mean?
like you know,
Analyze the requirements.
What does a PM do?
his job
Analyze
is
the requirements.
PM analyzes the requirements. Okay,
And
that's
is
not correct.
PM though the
What does PM mean? What is that? What does PM mean?
project manager?
Okay, project manager. You're saying their job is to analyze requirements?
So isn't a part of their job is to be a part of the meetings with the stakeholders and the clients, and so they can understand what the project needs and requires, and review the requirement when they're given instructions?
Okay, yes, that is correct, partly. But their job is not, what's their primary job? What's their primary role? What do they do?
To make sure the team is performing accurately, I'm assuming. Or everybody knows what their job is. You know?
Anyone else? What does a PM do? It's primary role. These are these are like the foundation. If you don't understand this, if I proceed with teaching you guys further stuff, materials, it makes no sense. Because everything will come back to this, what they do. Sunil, you were gonna say something, go ahead.
I mean, project manager, yeah, like I think Shafi said, they control the whole project and they interface with the client and the actual development team to ensure whatever issues arise and what kind of corrections need to be made accordingly to the software, and just making sure that deadlines are met and things are done on accordance to schedule.
Exactly, right? So that is correct. Okay, that's the keyword I was looking for. Schedule. PM is there to enforce the schedule. Her job is to meet deadline. Her primary job, she is managing the project, yes. She would oversee, she obviously holds a top role in the software project. Because why? She's the main coordinator. She talks to the client. She attends the meeting. She's always in touch with the client. Where we're not, we're mostly behind the screen and working. So versus what does a PM do? PM manages the whole project, right? Like you guys said. So I mean, she manages the deadline. That's, keep in mind. So now PM does what? He and she plays different roles. They're doing a lot of stuff. They're doing hiring. Most of the time they're the hiring manager. They're involved with hiring. They're talking to the product owner. They're talking to the client. They're talking to schedule. Also, even PM does testing too if it needs to be. PM job is to make sure the project the project's the smooth sailing, and it actually project passes. There's no failure. Do you guys know how many project fails in software development? A big amount of software development project fails. Just because they're spending money and hiring a vendor doesn't mean software development is successful. What I mean by failing meaning if they set a budget, they never meet the budget. They always go over the budget. Someone's gonna say something? Yeah, please go on mute if you're not gonna talk. So what does that mean? What's the job of the project managers? Their number one goal is for them to make sure they're on schedule, they're on deadline, they're meeting their schedule and deadline. That's their number one job. They have to make sure that you know they have to make sure, hey, you know what, this is that I'm not, this project is passing. I'm not doing anything for this project to fail, because lots of projects fail all the time in software development. You guys understand? So it's nothing new. Software development, a lot of project fail. So schedule, deadline. What does a DBA do? What's the job of a DBA? Anyone knows? What does DBA stand for? I know a lot of people probably knows, but we're just for our learning sake. We're learning, together. Anyone can tell me what does DBA stand for?
Database administrator.
Database admin. What's a database admin's job?
I mean, kind of just making sure that the the database isn't like corrupted and ensuring things are, there and not, I don't know.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So so let me ask you guys a little bit more technical question. When you check your Gmail, right? You guys have Gmail. When you check your Gmail, where's your Gmail sitting on? When you check your Gmail, right? Is it, and you check it on your computer, where is it?
It's a cloud or in a server.
It's in the cloud, right? It's not sitting in your, it's not sitting on your, it's not
Personal.
sitting in your personal drive. Exactly, hard drive. So Gmail is on the cloud. So this is where the DBA comes in, right? He's managing the servers. So when you're registering for, when you do a registration for a form, right? There's if you register, where does the data go? The data goes directly into the database, right? DBA checks it. So DBA's main job, it's so that the records, which called the data, the records can be pulled. So in one word, their main job is to verify the front end GUI, which is what we view when wherever the sites we usually browse on, Facebook, Gmail, to pay our banking, Citibank, Bank of America, to pay our bills, Con Edison, and different, like anything we do. Their main job is to make sure that whatever data you enter, it ends up in the right table, and it populates for the other admin users. So when you have to understand that there's different dashboard. Like just like you have a dashboard, that's the client dashboard. You have your own, which is you have your own GUI, which basically means you have your own dashboard. That's a user dashboard. There's something called admin dashboard. You have admin dashboard. Admin is able to view administrator dashboard, right? And so when you have that, when you have admin dashboard, admin views admin stuff, right? And then that the user view. So when you enter data, he has to make sure it goes to the right table, and that table corresponds with your administrator screen window, a GUI window. So it's interconnected, which is called, you would do integration testing for that. So if you did, if you guys, I'll come to that. I don't want to confuse you. There's something called ETL, extract, transform, loading. How ETL works, I'll share later on later slides. But basically, what they're doing is the DBA's job is to make sure the datas are going to right table and data can be retrieved. If they need to view data and data from the boxes, they can be retrieved. Understood, guys? Any question? Okay. So far, everybody understand what DBA does, right? Please participate. Like this is. And so, what about a developer? What does a developer do? So far, we spoke about QA. Somebody said BA gathers a requirement. PM manages the project, make sure the deadline is met, make sure the schedule is met. What about Deb? What does a Deb do?
They write the code.
They right.
They maintain, I guess, application.
They're translating basically in simple in IT in simple non-technical terms. They're translating what the client wanted from client non-technical requirement to a technical IT solution. They're giving client IT solutions. So basically, client says, you know what, I want my user. Remember I give you guys example about selling books. Like I have a bookstore and I want to be able to sell books online, and I want people to pull up books based on author, different category based on ISBN number, author. If it can be a fictional book, it can be a financial book, it can be non-fictional book. So based on that, so that's what developers does. They translate technical term into non-technical term. Got it, guys? This stuff is important, because if you don't understand this, there's it's gonna get, you won't understand that thing. Okay, so everybody's clear. Any question on this? QA, BA, PM, DAB, DBA, DAB. Any question? So there's another role that's missing. So you have the QA who's going to do testing. Business analyst will gather requirements, will do jest session, joint application designs, and PM manages deadline schedule. DBA is managing the databases, cloud, developers developing the code, translating. There's somebody else that's missing. Who's that guy? Who can tell me? There's somebody else that's missing, guys. Who can tell me who that person is?
Who makes the GUI?
Front-end developer. Who asked that question?
I did.
Sunil. Okay. That's still developer, front-end developer. There's someone else. I didn't go specific. I said there's another role. There's another person that plays a role. What says who's that person?
UAT.
UAT. Is he right, Sunil? Is it UAT?
I was gonna say the stakeholder, but I guess I'm in the wrong area.
Stakeholder. Client?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's client, user, right? End user. So you can say user, client, or we need the client. Why do we need the client? We need the client so they can give us this. This is the most important thing.
Feedback.
Huh?
Feedback.
You need the client so they can give you feedback.
I mean,
Is that why you need the client?
when you need them to use the software, otherwise it's pointless to make it.
Are you not seeing this? What I'm putting in on the blackboard? You need them. We need them so they can pay us.
Oh, money.
They need to pay us, or else there's no software. There's nothing. Okay, that's good. Client is there. Okay, who else? Who else? Just one more role. Anyone knows? I'm just seeing if you guys understand, you know. That's good to, the reason I question you, so it will store in your brain. It's, you know, it's remembrance. So when you guys go on the interview, it will come to you. Okay, all right, Salam said this person does this. It'll come to you then. So who's the other person? We spoke about him. You guys don't know, right? Okay. So his name is oops, let me do this.
Architect.
Exactly, right? You were there, almost there. What's the proper name?
Software architect.
No, CM.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a software architect. Yes, because why is he the software architect? He's the one that manages all the, he configures all the softwares. He fixes the QA environment for us. He fixes the developers environment for them, production, staging. He helps with production. His main job is to assist with production, to help them deploy the code. So CM, configuration management. His name says configuration management. You were there, Sunil, almost. All right, so all right, everybody did good. I think that's about it. I mean, look, the thing is, there are, so let me conclude, right? Let me tell you guys. So there are a lot of people in the project based on the project you work on, okay? So like you know, like when I was when when I used to work for Microsoft, we had such a big team. We launched GE or store expansion. We launched a site to 270 sites, which was in English. Remember, I teach you guys localization testing. They deployed a site all over the world. We had a huge team. So, you know, like Sunil was saying, product owner, scrum master, you know, end users, test SQA, you know, like we had so many roles. But what does not change is the base of foundation. We need a person that needs to test. We need a business analyst to gather requirements. We need a project manager to make sure we're meeting the deadline, that the project is not going over deadline, project is not going over budget. That's the main concern of the client, because all these projects go over budget all the time. None of these projects stay within the budget. You know, the problem is the client sees like, okay, you know what, I built the software you wanted, but then it's like, oh, the client is like, okay, but this is not, I want this, I want to add this feature, because once the software is built, they want additional feature. Do you understand? There's always something additional that follows through with after you build the software. So the software is there. After you build the software, something always comes up. Okay, so that's not going to change. You're going to have PM. They could be the product owner. They can be the Scrum. You know, that's agile term. There's different terminology based on the framework you're using, the methodology. So waterfall, we call him PM. In you know, in other places we call them product owner. The business analyst is called scrum master. But what's not changing, we have someone, instead of in agile you have stand up meeting, which is scrum meetings, where 15 minutes they ask you for your status, versus, but the business analyst role has not changed. He's still gathering requirement. We have a DBA. What is the DBA's job? To make sure everything is there, like it's going to the proper tables. It's retrievable. Like once you the database, once you start once you go to database using Toad or SQL Server, it's making sure everything is done. Okay. CM job is to deploy code, like take the code from development environment, move it to QA environment, take the code from QA environment, move it to UAT, take the code from UAT, move it to staging to production. So a lot of it's easy to say, but when you guys are hands-on, it's much more complicated. It's not as easy as, like right now we have a defect right now, right? We have we installed a software in I'm not going to mention like specifically what, like in a medical, like for medical center, right? We installed um a software which has to do with health, veterans health, and we installed it in different states. So we installed in two. So for example, for talking sake, I'm not, I'm just saying like for learning. So we installed a software in DC, say DC healthcare, DC medical center, and we installed the same software in Maryland. Do you know what happened? The software doesn't work in DC, like the same software. Everything is working in Maryland. In DC, it's not working. Do you guys see how complicated CM job can be? So do you guys see, like you install the same software in two different sites, but it's not working. So CM job is to, if it's not to move the code, his job is to install the software to computer. The individual, okay. So, you guys know, like every like, like big commercial company, like for instance, for learning sake, since I'm familiar with the VA, how the VA does veteran affairs. Think about veteran affairs. How does the veteran affairs install software? CM, if you have a CM in your project, do you think he will install it to an individual computer or someone else will? This is not an interview question, but this is good to learn. So you guys know on interview, like, if they ask you ever like how the software gets installed. Anyone knows, guys? So this is a question for you guys to think. You guys can answer when you come back. Uh, I'll give you guys it's 12:15. I'll give you guys 10 minutes break. Think about it. How does software once the software CM deploys it, who would install it to individual computer? Okay. 12:16. Let's come back in 10 minutes, all right, guys? Unless you guys don't need a break. Very quiet today, everyone.
I don't really care.
Okay. Well, we can continue if that's not. You guys, some people. I mean, I have my coffee, so I don't need. I'm good. If you guys need a break, but does anyone know to the answer what I'm asking? Like when a software gets think like if you think about like there's 200 computers in a VA center, right? How do you think that those softwares get installed in their computer? So when you work, you would know, right? That software gets installed this way. So I'm trying to give you that knowledge. So what happens when a software gets ready? CM cannot. When you get an update, what does iOS does? iOS pushes an update and sends it to your in your phone, right? And you just do the update. But a software build needs to be installed, a new package. It's not that easy, and then they don't do that because of security purpose. The Windows update, It's more, they do it because people all over the world, but these people are under one network. They need to do it. Who does it? Who do you think? Who does it, or how do you think these new softwares get installed in their computer?
I think by tracking,
You think by tracking, okay? Yeah,
like probably might have some tracking number, and when it's going to be installed the computer, it's going to be get a notification. Uh, kind of is they should have some number or anything to get notification.
anyone else?
Wait, can you reword what you're asking again?
So but the question is, the software gets built, right? Where you know how the CM, the configuration manager, is moving the code for us to different environments. When the software needs to be released into production and different sites, and for instance, the question for me, for you was, how would they install that software in something like a VA medical center? So a VA medical center has 300 to 400 computers. How would they install that software that launches in production?
By the server.
Wait, the server, okay. No, that's not correct. I mean, sort of. Obviously server is always there, but how would they physically install it? Or saying physically, like, how, so even better, I went step ahead and explain how iOS does it. What does iOS do when they have an update? What do? They send you the update on your phone, and you get a message, right? You get a notification on your settings saying that there's a new software update, right?
There's probably got to be like someone in like IT, I guess, like their actual physical like IT department that probably monitors and goes to each computer or
Excellent.
like
Yeah.
device.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Sunil, good answer. Yeah. So what they do is, help desk is actually the one that install, like Sunil was saying, tier one. It doesn't have to be like, there's different tiers of help desk. Usually it's tier one, low level help desk. They can just install the software. The reason they don't do it in they don't do it like how it's mass distribution, how iOS does, because their users is all over the world, and they need to push the changes to them through settings, through iOS. That's, they said your phone needs to be in charge, and the update takes place here. It's a computer, and it's exe file. Usually a software, when it's exe file, it's not online, it cannot be pushed. Help, like, just like Sunil just said, a help desk needs to install it. So a help desk will go in and they would install the exe, because in production it's much more complicated than just versus you just extracting a exe or changing some settings. It's not that easy. When something is in production, there's multiple things that's connected with it. Okay, everybody understood? Is that clear? Guys, is that clear? Everyone understand?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so here,
I have a quick question.
yes.
So are we like kind of going back to configuring manager? So were we saying that they are the person who moves like from one environment to the next environment? So if we were in like pre-production environment, they would be the one to, once everything is completed in that environment, they'd be the one to go ahead and phase it to production.
Yes, so they basically they would install it. So they would configure CM. So, like, they make sure the server is correct, and then everything is pointed, and the code can be moved, it can be installed. So they're kind of the installer. It's not like, how we, if we get a new software, we just go next, 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 and install it as self-explanatory. For CM, it's much more complicated. They have they have servers and they have networking. There's just, it's very complex. So their job is to make sure that the servers are up and running, and then it's installed properly. So if a developer, just to, I have worked on project with the developer environment was mistakenly installed in the QA server. So that's a different, sometime even there, like when you go into setting, everything has like all the software has target, which means like there's a server and there's a port. So this is, I'm going a little bit more technical. So they have to make sure that even though if it points like so the with our case, what happened is with this defect, right? They installed. It's not that they installed the software into Q environment. What was happening is that the port number they gave us was the developer's port number, which is to point to developer server. But with our server and port number, we were able to get to developer environment. So the reason I share this story, QA should not be able to access developer environment. And same thing, a developer cannot access QA environment. And another reason is a developer, if he makes any changes, if there's a CM or like a development manager, they work together to deploy the code. If they're not there, the developer can make the changes anytime. Did that answer your question, or did I just make it worse?
Yeah, it did. So they're kind of like need like no one can do anything like without them. So if something like for example like a
Right.
developer say they built a code and they go ahead and put it in the SQA environment, they can no longer make adjustment to that code or that software because it's already gone through the CM and processed to the next environment, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
CM and it. Yep, that's correct. Yeah. So just so so imagine like that's what I was trying to tell you guys, right? The biggest, why do we have why this the client spends so much money building like different server, different environment, and different usage, because they want the testing to be independent. That's the biggest thing. If the testing is not independent, imagine developers, there's a you found an issue, right? And by the time developer you found the issue and the developer sees it, right? He since you're in his environment, if you see something and then he sees it, and then he can fix it and you don't see it anymore. It's not reproducible for you. It's not independent. Do you understand? So the code he changed, he, the code he changed, he fixes it, but that does a lot of damages too, because it's not about just fixing, right? So wh- when you guys are, when we as a QA, when we find a job, when we find issues, like for instance, like something I told you guys will never ever, no software I worked 100% is defect free. There's no way. Like there's so many, these applications are so complicated, there will always be issue, like we found one screen where the client had something 4 years ago. It's no longer there because they took it they took it out. Like they took it out and we didn't even know. They were just, the application was out there in the medical center for a few years, and somebody tried to use it, the box is not there, and it's been missing for 4 or 5 years. That code was disabled. So that's what I'm saying. There's no way for you guys to know that this 100 to be 100% defect free, and then somebody has to have proper accountability and compliances. If the developer just found whatever they found and fixed it, there would be no accountability. Also, like they don't get better. They don't know why this is happening. Why is this code missing? You got to keep in mind, when the developer fix something, they always break something else. That's that. This is another reason why we have our job, because the way the software development works is, whenever they build something, they break something else. Something else doesn't work. Understand? So you build an app, you build a big application. You guys will see this comment. Something that was working in 1.2 version, and they fixed something in 1.3. You go back 1.2, that function is not working. One of the function is not working. and you would ask people, hey, why this was working in 1.2, how come it's not working? Because that's just how software development works. That's why they need us QA to continue to find defect. Clear, guys? This is important. This is important concept. If you don't understand these concepts, you don't understand how does a QA really add value. There's a lot of value a QA is adding to the team. Okay. All right. Any question? No.
No.
Okay, cool. So let me share my other screen. Okay, so we were here, right? Why is it not letting me see it? Oops, this is the wrong slide. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. So we went through this. These are really important for you guys to understand. If you don't understand this, there's nothing. Okay. So everybody knows what we do in analysis phase, right? Everybody's aware, right? What we do in the analysis phase.
Yes.
Okay. Who can tell me what do we do in analysis phase? Tell me, guys. I just want to know if you guys got it. No, this thing is teaching is for you guys to understand what we're discussing. What do we do in analysis phase?
Analyze the requirement.
Okay. Analyze the requirements. Anyone else?
Yeah, analyze the project.
Analyze the project. Okay. This is the analysis phase in SDLC, not STLC. So this is early phase, right? This is you have planning, and then this is analysis phase. What do we do in analysis phase in SDLC? Anyone knows?
They make plan when they're gonna be start and how long they're gonna be code. All their planning.
Exactly. Determine who will do what. Exactly, Shafi. Good answer. Determine who will do what. Tasks are assigned to the team members, and everything starts from here. Right? This is early phase. What about planning, guys? What's planning? What do we do in planning phase? Oh, okay, we did that already, right? Analysis, planning, we know for each. Okay, planning, determine who will do what. Task or design, right? We already know all that. We do, right? Everybody understands this, right? Planning phase, what happens? What about designing phase? What happens in designing phase? What happens in designing phase, guys?
I think designing phase, they're gonna be think this is gonna be a high level design or low level design, and how it's gonna be look like, where is gonna be home button, where is gonna be the login button, like those kind of stuff, I think.
Designing phase, right? Exactly. So designing phase, what they'll do, they'll talk about, hey, you know what? Do this, I mean, it's basically whose job is they're doing? Design architecture, that's what they're doing. All right, guys, I need 10-15 minutes break, all right? Like 10 minutes break. Let's take 10 minutes break because
Okay.
I gotta grab some coffee and stuff. I mean, food to eat. So we'll reconvene in 12:45. How's that? So I'm gonna put a timer here and then we'll reconvene.
Okay.
Okay. You guys don't see my screen, right?
No.
What just happened here? Okay, now you can, right? Okay, great. But why is it? Okay, now you can, right? Okay. Okay, so okay, we were discussing designing, right? Designing phase. Was that the phase we were describing? Discussing, guys? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, good. So okay, so planning happens. So what's happening in designing? Who's working on designing phase? Who's the main person working in designing phase?
The PM and the developers.
CM, right?
Yeah.
Designing. Yeah, he's doing solution architect, right?
Yeah.
He's doing solution architect. He's basically designing the backbone of the software, how the software. So he's building something called wireframe. Okay, he's building something called wireframe. Take note. He's building something called wireframe, and then he's building something called use case. Okay, this is important. Okay, guys, try to take notes on this stuff. Like he's this guy. They're doing So yeah, this is pretty important. So yeah, he's building the main stuff. So what see some of the documentation CM jumping all over the place. Use case, wireframe, they're building all this to what? So the people uh understand how the software is meant to work. So they're building diagram. It's called UML. Okay, they're doing UML, they're doing use case, they're doing wireframe. This is all interview question. They'll ask you what happened, who's, what do you guys do with use case? How is your use case made? Wireframe made, CM is things like that. Okay, so focus on that. Okay, so any question on what is what? What is that clear, guys? What do we do in designing phase? Clear? So I'll move on to the next slide, right? That's clear. So, and then we're moving into after designing is done, we're doing implementation, right? We're doing implementation. Also, I mean, basically implementation means we're doing development. Correct, guys? Coding. We're doing coding here, right? So here, the most of developers doing after they're done with their coding, they're doing unit testing. There's something called unit testing, okay? Clear, guys? Everyone clear? They're doing unit testing. And then if you have to understand how these phases work. So we can, once we start talking about, like you guys are going to learn about Jira tools and Selenium. Those tools all come into play as long as you understand how development happens, when they use it. If you don't understand the basic of how implementation takes place, how testing takes place, what your role in testing is, what your role would be in designing phase, what your role would be in development phase, um, you will not able to connect what's happening with what. All right, clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like all these terms that you're saying that are going to be like would be interview questions and all that stuff. I think Rashid, I would say he was going to make like a sheet with all these terms and terminology that we could study on our own time and just prepare ourselves properly. I don't know if that's something that you thought about as well, or what if you guys are both going to do that together. Because it would be probably like beneficial. I mean, especially for someone
Yeah.
like me, I don't come from any IT. I'm like just using my civil engineering like experience and like whatever I'm Googling, I'm doing to like answer your questions, to be honest.
Right. Good. So we have that in place already. So once you guys get better, we have a blog, right? And the blog has all the terms, and we have all the interview questions there. So we have list of interview questions that comes in. We have 300 plus interview questions that we'll share with you guys that most likely you guys will face in interview to crack the interview. Do you understand? So we'll do mock-up interview, but we'll give you the terminology. Why the terminology is important? Because the terminology tells that you're an experienced individual. Like if you don't use, like, you use the term when you said project manager, you said, okay, what's like everyone said, okay, you manage the project, and you said you manage the project, but then you said they follow through with schedule and deadlines. Like those terms tells the interviewer, like people that's sitting on the interview board, that you actually worked, and that's a top priority for you to establish that you're somebody who has worked and has that experience, knowledge. Do you understand? So that terminology, that's why I
I
keep.
get it. I mean, and I get it. Like we have to make ourselves look more presentable to get a job, especially
Right,
like
exactly.
for coming from technically. I mean, I don't know
Right.
about everybody else. But I'm
Every
zero,
project
zero
is
experience.
different. Every project is, when you walk in, so like I told you, I worked in, when I was a Microsoft store, when I worked for Microsoft store, that was a retail project. When I worked for AIG, that was an insurance domain underwriter application. After that, I worked for API. It was a non-profit petroleum application. Then I worked for Administrative Office US Court. That was a court application. And then I worked for pension application. Now it's a medical app. No project is same. The domain knowledge, that's something that you can learn on the job. But what they will not teach you is terminologies. What they'll not teach you, okay, they'll tell you, okay, Sunil, go do system testing. How would you know what a system testing is if you don't understand what they, what to do? Do you understand? So we're giving you the how to's when you guys get tasks. to do system testing when you get tasked to do integration testing when you get tasked to do. So say a company hires you, for instance, which is very common scenario, like they're using Jira. They expect you to know Jira, not for them to teach you Jira. What they will teach you is the domain knowledge. Okay, you know what, this is insurance domain. These are the compliances, these are the regulation that you will test, these are the business process, business rules. That's different. No one
I mean,
can.
they'll teach you, like they won't teach you, like you said, like the software, but they'll teach you how to like do it their way, right? Because like
Their
every
business
company does and
process.
every team does things differently, right? I mean, I would
Right,
assume.
exactly. Business process. Like we have something like I'm working on a project for the VA. So we have something called BIP, Integrated Focus. So it's not even agile. It's like agile, but it's for the veteran affairs only. It's different, you know. Every project you work on, it's what you you know, every project is different. Sometimes they have their own framework. So like I said, no two project is same. So I supported so many project and no two project was ever the same. Understood, guys? So yeah, domain knowledge, they'll give it to you, but what they will not give you, okay, uh, uh, implementation and development, unit testing. And they expect you not know how to do unit testing. You know, they're not going to tell you, but they want you to know that in this phase when developers doing unit testing, they're not going to tell you, okay, Sunil, do test planning. You get tasked with test planning, you should know when they're doing coding, you should be working on your test plan. So that's what we're here to teach you. We're not here to teach you, you know, when you go on the job, this is how it's going to play out. We're teaching you how to do the job, how to, you know, they'll give you to every project will give you time. When I worked for Microsoft, they gave us about like that, like 3.5 months to learn how the retail and everything works. You know, they give us like, because that was a very complicated application. It was not easy, you know. The retail was happening all over the world, and so they understand that, you know, you don't come from the same background. Some people need the domain knowledge takes time. They don't, no one's gonna say, okay, Sunil, you join the project, roll up your sleeve and start testing. You can't. You know, you can't test anything if you don't understand, what to test. Okay, interview question. How would you know what to test if they tell you, if they said, okay, it's Sanil Shafi Dola, they said, okay, you guys get hired and we have no requirement documents, we have no use case, no wireframe, no TRD, no RSD, requirement specification document, no TRS, we don't have anything. How will you test? What would you guys say?
I'd ask for a pay raise.
You ask for pay raise?
Yeah, that's what I would do first.
Well,
And
they're expecting to hiring you, not okay, guys, you know, so one thing, don't talk about your salary in the interview, okay? Interview is not a place where you talk about your salary. You talk about your salary with the recruiter, with after they hire you or before the interview, either before the interview or after the interview. But on the interview, don't talk about your salary. Okay. A lot of people ask, so we had people ask on the interview, like, how much am I getting paid? So, you know, the guy's like, you know, I'm currently making 90, I want to make 120. Can you guys pay me that? Wrong questions. Don't don't talk about salary in the interview. You're there to present your technical skills and impress them and, you know, get the job, not discuss your salary. But back to you, Sunil, what would you do if they say we have no documentation, we don't have a process in place? How would you go about your testing?
I mean, I guess there's a couple ways to go about it. I mean, first, you could just go through the methodology that you have done in the past with other projects.
But we don't have a methodology.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm talking about like myself, like what I've done elsewhere with the experience if I've,
Okay.
you know, because like, what else am I supposed to do if they don't have guidelines and they haven't created anything and they still want me to test it? I would just go through the way I've done it for someone else, you know, because like, what else am I supposed to do? I mean, the only thing is like the other situation would be is like, you know, to actually sit down with the CM and the PM and try to come up with a plan and
You'll
figure out, like pick their brain and figure out like how, like what they're expecting, and you know, trying to create a plan or a method to do the testing and then do it, which obviously is going to cost more money.
excellent. Excellent. Okay, good. So you'll gather information. I like your answer. Good. Okay, Shafi, what would you do if they interview question? They ask you don't have any documentation. We don't have a process in place. Basically, how would you go? How would you start your testing? How would you go about your testing? We don't have anything in place.
I'll go by the BS requirement.
We don't have a requirement document.
So yeah, so then it's gonna be the different story. Like, okay, I have to have some knowledge to ask them what they want,
Good.
and yeah, that's how I have to start like a whole brand new everything. Mm,
Okay.
so probably I have, if they don't have nothing, and then in there I have to play as a BA thing to first gather their requirement. Like then I have to be you talking about on when they ask, when without BA, so how they gonna be call me as a QA? You said
So the question was, you're in the interview, and I'm asking you, okay, Shafi. So we're bringing you on board, but we don't have any documentation. How would you go about your testing? This is actually a real interview question. I'm not making this up. I was asked this question many times in the interview.
there's I don't know.
Okay, Dola, what about you? You don't have any documentation. How would you go about your testing? How would you start your testing?
I don't think you can because you don't know what the requirements are. So kind of going back to what Sunil was saying, that you have to figure out what the expectations are. So once you figure out what the expectation, or maybe like kind of go back to step one, you know, gather the information that you need. What is the expectation? And then, you know, divide everybody, like assign them tasks and figure out what is the actual thing that needs to get tested. Because I don't think you can do testing if you don't know what we're testing. Because even the main purpose of testing is what you're testing, when you're testing, and how you're testing. So if we don't know those things, then we can't test.
Good, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so you guys, you guys are thinking the right. You guys all said the right answer. So the thing is, if okay, so I faced these questions, right? So this is how I answered. I said, is this the first question when they said, okay, we don't have any documentation, we don't have a process in place. How would you go? How would you go about your testing? Okay, so first question, the way I answered them, I said, is this an existing application? Is this an existing system? If this is an existing system, you guys have some type of documentation in place. You have user manual in place. You have other testers who did test cases that I can analyze. You have requirement documents. You have bug report. You have bugs that you wrote. I can analyze, and that's how I will. If none of that exists, I will sit down. I'll sit down with different stakeholders, different team members, and I will gather knowledge. The reason they're asking you this question, it's not because they don't have documentation. They want to see how analytical person you are, how you think. Do you think outside the box, or you are somebody who's like a robot that does that as instructed? So interview, every interview what does the interview compress of? It combines of technical questions, soft skills, and analytical questions. 3 parts to interview. So they'll ask you the technical question. They'll ask you soft skills like your communication, emails. How do you do documentation? How good are you with documentation? And then and then analytical question. And this is the analytical part. They want to see, are you an analytical person? Are you detail oriented person? Do you pay attention to detail? Okay, so they so like I said, the first thing is we, we cannot test if we don't know what to test, right? What Dola was saying. What to test, we cannot know. If we don't know what to test, what are we testing? If you want me to test something, first I have to understand what I'm testing, because if I'm testing blindly, I will not find any defect. Correct? So keep in mind, all the defect is found where? Most of the defect is found where? Is found in the knowledge. Like the more knowledge you have, the more defect you will find. Understood, guys? So okay, so this is so that's everybody's clear on that, right? I was gonna go deep and explain to you guys different I was going to explain to you guys what we talked about, the different types of testing, black box testing, right? There's 3 types of testing they explained to you guys. You know what they are? There's 3 types of testing. Do you guys know what they are?
Yes, I think functional, non-functional.
Okay, functional, non-functional, and then
They're called is
3 types of testing I explained to you guys, right? Remember
Can you hear me?
yeah,
Static. The last one, I think.
exactly. Yep. 3, it's functional, non-functional, and statics. What is static testing?
Um,
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
yes.
I explained this last week, right? To you guys? How static testing happens? So if you guys can explain this to them, how static testing happens, okay. And we pretty much got the job. They understand, they know that how software, how software development works, how software development should work, okay? So open with Paint, let's see. Open with Paint. Cool, keeps going to asking. Okay, I have, okay, so now, so this is another important topic. Just try to focus on just understanding how these concepts, like how it works. So you guys are doing requirement. You guys talked about, you said, functional testing, right? You said functional testing, 3 types of testing, right? You said 3 types of testing, functional, non-functional, and then you said, what is it? 3 types of testing. What's the 3 types of testing? Three,
Functional, non-functional, static testing.
right. Functional, non-functional, and then what?
Static testing.
Static testing. Okay. This is a really good interview question. Okay. Just try to memorize this. Where do you think most of the, if you can eliminate, what's the, where can you eliminate most of the defect before it even, it even happens in the software? Where can you
Static
eliminate it?
testing.
Static testing, but how?
I can't remember how, but I remember us talking about this. Are you writing something? Because we can't. We're on the SDLC slide. I don't know if you're writing something. We can't see. Oh, okay. I see. Never mind.
Here, right? So
Yeah.
how do we eliminate most of the defects before it even ends up in the software?
Oh, I think I'm. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sunil. I apologize.
In the planning phase, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you make sure that, like, I guess the wire diagram like is meeting what the client is expecting, so that way like something doesn't get written for something that's not really what the client's looking for.
Exactly. So yeah, correct. Yeah. Shafi, do you want to answer? How do we eliminate defects before even ending, before even the bug even ends up in the software?
Do the unit testing.
Oh man, you took it like so it's not in the software yet. By static testing, how do we eliminate defects? How do we eliminate defects by static testing? You're doing static testing here, right? Right here, requirement gathering. You're doing here. How do you eliminate defect before it becomes expensive?
Reviewing the requirement.
Exactly, requirement assessments. Yeah, reviewing the requirements, requirement assessment. So if you think about it, right? Before even the business, before the developer develops it, right? You're testing it and finding the defect. If you can eliminate it from early phase, what are you doing? You're saving the clients thousands of dollars, correct? So if you can eliminate it from the requirement document before it even ends up, before the developer even designs it, what are we doing? We're saving the client a lot of money, right? Correct. So static testing, if we can do that, if we can do static testing and do requirement assessment, we can eliminate a lot of the defect or bug even happens. This is also, if you guys ever, or Rashid Bhai will talk to you guys, ISTQB. If you ever guys want to take ISTB question, they ask you this question, 100%, like maybe 200% this question will come in the test. They ask you, how do you eliminate defect in early phase before it ends up in the software? Static testing. By finding defects early on, you saving the client thousands of dollars. Okay, is that clear, Sunil, Shafi, Dola?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so, and now we're Okay, you can see my screen, right? Where did my mouse? All right, so we covered analysis, we covered designing. So development, you guys know how development will take place, right? What is our role in development? What are we doing in development phase?
Making it the code.
You're making the code, right? The developer's making the code, and we're just doing STLC. Okay, so and then testing phase, it's what? It's the most important phase for us, and also for so guys, keep look at this. I mean, if you think about it, uh, I just when they allocate money, they're allocating maybe 30. There's development has one phase, testing has two phase. There's SQA and UAT testing. See how important testing is? Like, so they're allocating 35 to 40% of the project fund toward testing. Even some projects do more depending on the project you're supporting. That's how important testing is. Without testing the product, it's basically it would be, like massive failure. Did you guys know there was they said a black day for stock market? One day the whole stock market was closed on a stock market day. Did you guys hear about that? When was this? This was, I think, last year, 2020. Whole stock market was closed. Do you know why? There was a defect on the stock market. They had to shut down the whole stock market because of an issue they found. You understand? So there's different type of bugs, right? Some bug is cheap. Like I'll explain to you guys. This is understand this concept too. So some bugs are really cheap to fix. Why? Why are they cheap to fix? Because client is like, if you find a defect, say you find a defect that, okay, what, client is unable to transfer money, that's fine, that's a defect. The client will report it. They'll say, what, this is it will become production ticket. They'll say, I cannot, I'm unable to transfer money. And this happens to us, this happens to all of us, right? We try to go do something online and we're unable to do it. We try to send money, we cannot send money. We try to log in, it doesn't work. We try to pay bills, sometimes we're unable to pay bills. We're trying to do something, it doesn't work. Why? But there's some type of issue, server issue, connectivity issue, something going on. But that's okay, that's not life threatening. Imagine you go into like MRI and you're supposed to take MRI, it's laser. If that has a defect, that's life threatening. That can be a serious problem. Imagine something like health record, right? Your record gets mixed up with somebody else and the doctor gives you a wrong dosage of like you're diabetic and mixes you up with somebody else. He gives you the wrong dosage. Like it's not even the doctor's fault. Doctors looking at the portal. Every doctors, they have their own portal. Like every medical, like if you go to ER, all these ERs, they have their own portal, right? And if there's a glitch and there's something that it's not refreshing or something happens, and it's very common that it happens, that they prescribe you a medicine that should not be prescribed to you. Huge problem, life-threatening problem, right? That's a big issue. So bugs can be categorized. There's certain bugs are life-threatening. Defects happen and then they create a big issue. If it's something like simple, like, okay, you cannot log in or you cannot transfer money, they'll fix it. But health, like when it comes to like different that I told you, like there's different type of testing. So if you're testing like physical units, just it's not like like, so everything is not like software that you'll be testing physical unit, mobile app. So when you do physical unit, think about it, there's a defect, which there's a lot of defects. When they hire you, regardless how good you are, if you understand the domain, you'll find more defect. That's just how software testing, the more you understand the domain, the more you understand how the software works, the business process work, the business rules is, you'll find there's a gap between the requirement was being built, because there's no way developers can build anything exactly as per the requirement. There's no way. The translation changes. You guys ever, Sunil, you guys ever play a game in school where they tell you whisper something to your ear and then it goes to end of the class? Anybody play this game in class? They
Yeah.
was what happens when you go at the very end, like the last person? It ends it whispers to the last person in the class. What happens to the first, what was whispered to the first person?
Change.
It changes completely, right? Because what so that's how that's how soft, if you understand that concept, like something that was whispered from beginning of the class to like 7 or 8 row, by 8 row it's a whole different story. He said chicken and the person at the very end says beef, it says cow, or says zebra, or like it changes, right? So why am I sharing this with you guys? Because that's how software development messes up. Like huge problem with software development is that what the client wants, what the developer builds, and what the tester tests is never the same. So that's why a testing person is really important, because not only testing person is really important, the client wants to make sure they're getting what they paid for. They do their own UAT testing. Okay. So those concepts are really important. Okay. So um I think and you guys know what STLC is, right? You guys know what STLC is from testing phase, right? Everyone here knows what STLC is?
Kind of.
What is STLC? So you guys said you know STLC, right? What's STLC?
Software testing life cycle.
Okay, software testing life. So what do we do in STLC?
We test the software, or yeah.
So this, right? So there's 5 phases. We analyze the requirements with test planning, test execution, defect tracking, test report. So this will, you get understand the 5 concepts. So you get, remember this one, right? What I showed you guys, this screen that I showed you, that SDLC happens and then STLC happens, right? So you have here, oops, let me just bring the screen to this window so you guys see it here. Okay. You guys see my window, right? The SDLC screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, see, STLC is this. So it's 5 phases. It's requirement analysis, develop test plan, develop test cases, execute test cases, and analyze the test results. It's and submit defect, right? So you're analyzing the requirements. Once you're done analyzing the requirement, you're developing test plan, and then once you're done developing test plan, you need to execute that test plan. By executing test plan, you're developing test cases. You're executing the test cases when the software is ready. You're analyzing test results, seeing how many defects you found, and then you're submitting defect, and then the bug life cycle happens. Okay, bug life cycle happens. It says bug life cycle. You find a new defect. You go through the phases. Okay, so that's your STLC. So here, let me show you guys bug life cycle, and then we can go through the other stuff. Why is it going there weird? All right, so me change the display setting here. Applying path. Okay, good. Let's change it now. All right, so here, I think everybody understood testing, and then hold on. So I have to cover. All right, you guys can see my screen, right? Okay, so we covered SDLC. We talked about this, a framework that describes activity stage, requirement phase. We've picked up on development, testing, implementation, maintenance. We talked about SDLC models, right? You guys are all familiar with like waterfall, iterative, agile methodology we use it. We use different methodology to develop the softwares, right? Everyone understands that, right? Yes, right? We understand that. Yes, guys. And also why we use SDLC models. Everyone understands that, right? Why we use STLC models, like why do we use agile? Why do we use iterative methodology? Why do we use waterfall methodology? Why, I know why they came up with it. Everyone understands, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it provides basis. So reason we're using SDLC models because what it does is it provides basis for project planning, estimating, scheduling, providing framework, standard set of terminologies, activities. Okay, and then increase visibility of stakeholder. Okay. This is all the advantages that when you choose SDLC, what happens? I told you like in the beginning, product tracking, control, client relationship, project risk, all that happens. We're gonna talk. I think we discussed this. Does anybody needs further explanation for waterfall or iterative methodology, or agile, spiral, or iterative model? Anyone, guys?
Is this
You guys,
PowerPoint pointed uploaded somewhere?
I'll send it to you guys. Do you want me to put it on the chat? I can put it in chat. You want
No.
to put it?
If there's a, I don't know, Google Drive or whatever, doesn't really matter.
But you can download it right now from the chat. Yeah, you can just here. I put it on the chat for you guys. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you on the email today after the class. Once the recording is uploaded, I'll send it to you guys. I'll send you guys the slides also. Okay, spiral model. Okay, so not 100% of not 100% all the project use agile. There are a lot of companies small. Remember I was telling you they use who all right, who can tell me when can we use waterfall? What's the when we can, there's a lot of companies that uses waterfall. When can we use waterfall? Can someone tell me waterfall methodology? When can we use it? Guys?
When the software is like simple and it just because waterfall just kind of goes through each step.
Right, correct. So give me an example. Like what is simple meaning? Which type of simple system or software we can use it in?
Company,
Go ahead. Somebody was gonna say something.
company website.
Company website?
Yeah,
Why company website?
because you're just talking about the services that they provide and like a little bit of information about the company. You're not really. It's not like a e-commerce site where they're like selling their services and you pay for it and everything on there.
Like a brochure, right? Like a brochure website that has like home, contact us page, about us. Very simple, like 5 to 10 page. It's not complicated. You can use waterfall, right? Is that what you were going, Sunil?
Yeah.
Okay, but why? What's the reason?
I think this probably client base. That's why you can use the waterfall method.
Because it's client based.
Yeah.
Software is client based.
Yes.
Is that true? What do you guys think? Is that a true statement?
I was gonna say because it saves a lot more money. There's less planning involved, and the budget's a lot lower.
Right. Correct. See, that's a good. But what Shafi was saying, is that true? Client base applications that are client based can be used waterfall.
Not necessarily, I don't think, because majority of all of them are going to be client based, but I think it's more so because like the water, it's literally like a waterfall. You can't, so in the waterfall model you can't like go backwards, so it just continues to fall. So it's going to go through one step 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just going to go do all the testing all together. So I think that's why it's like a smaller, like it's more of a simple way of testing. If you're doing something simple, if you're doing something a little more complex, you have to be able to like maybe do step 1 and then step 2, and then maybe have to go back to step 2 to adjust something else.
Okay, good. So, okay. So, what is client-based software? What Shafi was saying. What is Shafi? Do you know what client-based software is?
Yes. Single user.
Single user. Is that true, guys? Client-based
Not
software,
like a
single user.
single, like this small, like you can use 4 or 5 people, or yeah, a single user something like.
Okay, is that a true statement? What do you guys think? Client-based application is built for 5, 6 users.
I'm not sure. I mean,
What do you think, Sunil?
I'd say
You
no, but I don't really know either. So
okay?
I mean,
So go ahead, Dola.
I just not sure. Honestly, I was gonna try to try it, but I'm not sure.
You know, there's two types of software, right? You have client-based software and there's web-based software, right? So answer your question, Shafi, correction, right? There's two types of software. There's client-based software and there's web-based software. If you break the software into two different software, when you say client-based, right? It just basically means that it does not require, it doesn't require web access, or if it does, it's not external public internet. Okay, so when you say if you say client-based application or client server application or client application, do you know what that means?
I think I try to say client project, like, client project application.
Okay, everything is client project. Clients hire us to build the software for them. But you were not going toward client base, right? You were saying it's more of like a client application, small application. Is that what you were going toward?
Yes.
Okay, so but let me clarify. Yes, you are right. Okay, so we can use waterfall for small projects. So think about like all these mom and pop shops you guys have, right? Like you have restaurants, you have this kebab places, you have small application. Think about a pizzeria, a local pizzeria. They have a website. What are they displaying? Cost, the menu of their pizza, what do we serve, the homepage, about us, how long we've been in business, if we do delivery, there's some links that talks to Grubhub, Uber Eats, but that's about it, right? 5 to 6 pages, very simple. And the client tells you build it. So versus take that same application and there is Domino's Pizza, very different, right? The application becomes very complex. You have Domino's Pizza and then you have something like local pizzeria, complete two different scenario, correct guys? You
Yes.
guys understand? So when you do client, so it's something very simple that the customer wants people to find. It's like a brochure. Instead of the menu, they want people to find them online. They have goals, right? They want to be marketed, they want to find their local customers who's around them, they want to be able to, when somebody Googles them, they want their website to come up so they can order pizza. If they're driving by Google Map, they want them to find them, things like that. That's a lot of reason why they build a website. Versus something like Domino's Pizza, which is like it's a complete system. You order a pizza, it's tracking a pizza. It's telling the driver your information. The order is coming in. They're printing out the label. They're making the pizza, sending it to you. The order is going to corporate. It's a complete system, right? Huge system, right? And that's the difference. Like that's a software, and then that's a regular brochure. Like that's a website, and that's a system. That's an application. Two different things. Okay, so but I do want to clear, guys, what's the difference between client application and web portal? A client application is
Internet, right? And then the ones on the internet.
exactly right. Client application, what Shafi was saying, that's not correct because client application, right? It's that client application can be built, like a lot of these doctors, if you go to medical centers, they're using client application. They're not using web application because they don't want number one reason, they don't want the system to get hacked. That's a huge concern for companies, because if you look at if it's sitting on there, it's safer to use it will use the internet, but it's safer if they install it as an exe versus make it a browser, which becomes a big target for other people to hack in and things like that. Okay, so what Sanil was saying, internet. What is internet? Internet is a network. It's private network. It means it's like a corporate private network. Only works when you go to Chase Bank. The teller uses a system. It only works for the teller and the banker. But if they go outside, out of that branch, they won't be able to use it unless the network is same. That is between internet. And then client server applications are basically standalone application. They're called client server and standalone. Why? Because they do not require or they do not require Wi-Fi. They do not require net. And Shafi, you were saying client. When you say client based, there's a standalone application. There's the web application, there's client server. Client servers are like Microsoft Word, Excel, right? That's your client server. Same thing. You have different softwares. Like if you go to your Xers, all those games you play, they're client server application. You guys ever play you ever see the calculator on your laptop? That's a client server calculator. And then some application, like application that I'm working on is they've been working on this application for 35 years. And this is a client application. This is not a web application. They spend millions of dollars. They have millions of dollars in budget every year. Every 5 years, they have millions of dollars budget. They have a lot of vendors coming in. Just from my company, just from like our company, like not direct my company, just from the company that actually got awarded with this project, they have 270 people working on the application. And we've been building this application for the last 35 years. And I worked in it for 7 years. Before me, they were building it, think about close to 28, 29 years. And that's our client server application. So do you see how big these applications are? They're huge, they're massive. Okay. Um, okay, this is also important for you guys to learn. So I should teach you guys this too. So this one, right? Phase one. So this is SDLC phase. What happens? You have a you have a rough order, RUM, right? A project development estimate, requirement definition. So far, everything I explained to you all comes back down to these phases, right? We talked about project planning, requirement development, design, development, testing, product release, enhancement, and maintenance. Everything is within this. Okay, so if you look at this, project initiation happens, and then project requirement. You'll get this slide, but you guys should take this note. Like if somebody says, "What's PMP?" Project management plan. See, charter. This is not for you, but it's for project manager. There's something called functional requirements. Every functional has requirements, right? There's technical requirements. What the technical requirements are of the load storage. Remember, solution architect. There's requirement review and approval phase on requirement definition. The statement of work. It's called SOW, statement of work. Okay, so if somebody says what's the SOW, you should know what SOW is. Statement of work. Requirement. This is. I mean, they'll ask you what's your project management plan right now? What are you guys working on? And then design. There's internal, external, design review, detail. So remember, I was telling you guys this phase in testing, right? This is the phases that happens within SDLC. So there's internal, external, design phase. There's design review, and there's detailed project development. Okay, then construct. This prototype. You guys know what prototype is? Everybody should know what prototype is here. What is prototype, guys? Do you guys know? I mean, Sunil would know. He's an engineer, right, Sunil?
Yeah, I mean the prototype
Yeah.
is
What's
like the first iteration of something being like developed.
proof of concept, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, like proof of concept. Like basically, if something will work. So what's another thing I teach you guys in prototype? Wireframe use case. So something that basically kind of tells you before the development does it. Like they do they do things like called UML, right? And UML, I forgot what UML stands for, but so they will do prototype in different like diagram and charts and UML. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. Okay, so what they do is they do different charts for, you know, like different just like this is a UML, right? This is kind of an UML, one type of UML. This is explaining to you different phases of different phase, how this, you know, how this SDLC would work, right? So you have phase one formation, then you have phase two, which is requirement planning. Phase three is design. Phase four is development. Phase five is testing. And then phase six is product release, and then phase seven is post implementation. That's enhancement and maintenance. That's your 7 phases in SDLC. Okay, and prototype is where basically in development they do wireframe, use case, things like that. Okay, and then they have something called code review. Code, you know how when you write a test case, right? um I'll teach you guys this later. I think it might, okay, but you guys will understand the concept, so let me explain to you. When you write a test case, what do you think you guys do after you finish writing a test case? If you write a test case, right, Shafi? What do you think your next phase is after you write a test case?
Review them, or and or
Who will review them?
test. My if
Executing
think
test,
Sorry, go ahead, Dola. You were saying something?
executing test case.
After you write test case, you're going to execute them.
Uh,
How would you know it's
I mean,
correct?
oh, I guess review the test case. What Shuffy was saying.
Who will review? So you wrote the test case and you'll review your own test cases and you'll know it's correct.
I think QA leader, if they have QA leader, or
CM.
CM will review your test
Well,
cases.
that's hi. But sorry, I have a question now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, like I would assume like after you write the test case, you would wanna like execute the test case to see if the test case, like if you're following the step, if it's working. Otherwise, how would you know?
Okay, so there's few things to it, right? So number one thing is when you write test cases, there's a phase to test case, and then when you guys start writing test cases, I'll explain to you and we'll do test case. But basically, when you write test cases needs to be peer reviewed. Why they need to be peer reviewed? Just like that way developer cannot don't see the defect on their own code, you will not see the issue on your own test case. Those test cases need to be peer reviewed by another SQA person. Okay, and if those test cases go to UAT users, they go to production or they go to client or production support, they need to be reviewed by someone called technical writer. So there's a person, remember you guys were saying there's a BA, QA, CM, and also Sunil said product owner, scrum master. You guys saw all this. There's actually another person that stays in a lot of the project. His and her role is they're technical writer. Why are they technical writer? They write all the documentation, pretty much the user manual, the RS, even the business analyst does. Business analyst is not always the technical writer. Maybe there's a business analyst in the project, but their job is to just gather requirements, not so much of be a technical writer. Technical writer is there to review the documents before it gets uploaded into SharePoint. Understood, guys? So this, after you write your test cases, you have to peer review them. They need to be peer reviewed by SQA. If they're going to UAT side, most likely 80% of the time, they'll be reviewed by a technical writer. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So so when we're talking about like the teams of like, how we kind of talked about the DBA and PM, should that be a part of it so that we can like, is this another position in the team so that we can know that these are people that we need to be able to talk about when we go to this interview?
Yes. So yeah, definitely for sure. So technical writers are, so most of the time they're business analysts, right? But a lot of the time their job is to be what is the skill set business analyst brings in to the table, to the team, is that they're a writer. They know how to gather requirements and translate them from non-technical views, non-technical wording to technical terms. But a lot of projects that I worked on, they have technical writers. Why? Because they have documentation that goes out, like documentation they'll go to like they'll go to production, they'll go to production release, they'll be launched in online, they'll be given to clients. So in that case, what happens is those documentation needs to be, like they need to be grammatically correct. They need to be proper. There's just not It's not written by one person. So technical writer makes it easier for them to actually have the documentation. Their job is to do documentation. So if you look at the user manual, right, every company, you guys see that if you have any software, all the software, they have something called, they have a user manual, and that's written most likely by a technical writer. So their BA, you can say they're BA, but you can also say the technical writer. Yes, you should. So to make the answer short, you should say there's yeah, you have your test cases reviewed by technical writer. And why do they review it? Because before it goes to the client, the technical writer makes sure grammar, grammatically it's correct. If it's 5-bit compliances, a lot of the there's something, remember we were talking about section 508, right? um s- so there are people, remember I told you um they're impaired. And when they're impaired, imagine they have to execute your test cases. How would they execute your test cases? Your document needs to be 5-bit compliances, and there's a way to do that. So what the technical writer checks for is grammar, if it's following the template that you guys should follow around, and then also 5-bit compliances. In most cases, these are the three things all technical writer they look for. Most likely, that's just what I seen, what they do most of the project I supported. I see these are the three things they focus on.
So I had a question.
Yes.
So that means when they are in the meeting with, you know, the owner of the, the software, or when they have meeting beginning,
Yeah. Yes.
that means BA sits in there and also technical writer sit in there, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So
Because I
yes.
think BA, so that means by you saying BA doesn't have to have a knowledge about the like software that much, because if technical writer is in there, BA doesn't need to have the knowledge of the, like, if like a customer says, okay, I want a I want a like a app, so it's going to be have a login button, but it's need to but the customer didn't say I need to have previous button or back button. But if technical writer is in there, he they can prepare the customer, says, oh, if you have back button or previous button is going to be better. Am I right?
right. Yeah. So I mean,
So
sort
that
of
means,
partially.
BA doesn't need to have any idea about the software.
They do. So they do, right? So that's what I'm saying. So what does the BA really good in? BA has experience in gathering requirements. Technical writer, he and she is most likely they're known to do documentation, so they're more of like, okay, they know how to do user manual, they know how to review test scripts, they know how to do other documents. BA's job is to do like diagram UML. Their job is to do UML and also to gather requirements. So they have something called jet session, right? Like join. So a business analyst joins the project. What does he or she is good in? They're translating what the non-technical is to technical requirements. So the requirements can be developed uh, properly by the developer, right? But the technical writer, you don't expect the company to hire you as a BA, so hire me or you, and just expect them to that they have to update the user manual for you to do it. They don't trust us enough. Like they don't know what we will write. So they need somebody who's like their only job, technical writer. Their job is to do documentation. Their job is to write these because keep in mind, what you have to understand is that everything comes to the client. What you deliver, business analyst, when you write requirements, your requirements are not affecting the client this much, but then when you do documentation, it's going directly. This is based on project experience, right? So when I used to when I learned, right, I thought BA does everything, but then when I went to the job and I seen how they work on the job, that's not business analyst is not the only technical writer. They have separate technical writer. But again, I said is based on the budget of the project. If they have budget there, they'll hire technical writer. Most government projects, they have extra technical writer. Some company, if they're small and maybe they don't have enough budget for the project, they might not hire technical writer. So do you understand, Shafi? So it depends. It's not like, okay, it's a mandatory role. Business analyst is a mandatory role. Technical writer is an optional role. If a company can afford it, they'll hire it.
Yes, yes. Now I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So it's
So I
not a
have a
hundred. Yes, go ahead.
so for example, the companies, for example, say that they don't have the budget for a technical writer, then who in those scenarios, like when we write the test cases, like the QAs write the test cases, who reviews those test cases in those scenarios?
I think there's they any project or anything they have two more than one QA. So you will review my one, I will review your one. I think that's how I understand. If they don't have technical writers.
All right.
Oh,
You'll peer review each other test case called peer review. But also a business analyst can peer review your test cases. So even there's two, and you say, you know what, I work with the BA, and this is from project experience. I had analyst, like when I was early in, when I started working, I had the business analyst review my test cases. Why? Because they know the requirements the best. They know how effective your test scripts are compared to another tester. You understand, Shafi? It doesn't always have to be another tester. It can be the business analyst also.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
Did that answer your question, Dola?
yes.
Okay, good. All right. So you guys, okay. So now the design, okay. So see, the design phase happens, right? You have internal, external design phase happen, design review happens. See how our life cycle is? This is like this is almost like a life cycle for this is a life cycle for, like uh, BA, business analyst and technical writer. Do you guys see? We have a life cycle. They have their own life cycle. Okay. You understand, guys? Just like we have our own life cycle, they have their own life cycle. Project management plan, functional requirements, technical requirements, requirement review approval, statement of work, change of scope. Okay. ex internal, external design review, detailed project development. So this is where, who does design phase? Who's involved here? Tell me, guys, who are the people that's involved here? Who can tell me?
CM.
CM, excellent. Yeah, CM, and then who else? I think Sunil was saying that in the beginning. Go ahead. CM and
Developers.
what type of developers?
DB.
You said DBA?
Yeah.
DBA can be involved, yes. DBA, okay. Solution architect, another role. Okay, who else?
Front-end developer.
Front-end developer, right? Exactly, front-end developer. Front-end developer are the one that, what's another name for front-end? A lot of people don't say front-end developer, they say another term. What are they called? Most of the companies you'll hear, they usually don't say front-end developer, they call them something else. UI developer, okay? You know what UI developer means? User interface developer. Okay, so and then we spoke about here we spoke about development, prototype happens, code review happens, and then they do unit testing. Okay, unit testing, we spoke about this already, right? So unit testing, and then they have testing, system testing, right? Okay, so you guys know what system testing is, right? Okay, interview questions. Okay, another interview question from testing phase. So I give you guys a software, right? I give you the say I give you Amazon.com software to test. What's the first thing you will do? How will you test it? So you're a tester, right? And you bring in testing knowledge. So I give you Amazon.com. What's your first testing you're performing? What's the first testing you're performing, guys? I give you Amazon.com. Please go on mute if you're not talking. Some background noises. You get Amazon.com. What's the first testing you're doing to test? What am I expecting you to do?
Add to cart.
You're adding it to cart.
Adding a product to cart, and then
Okay.
proceeding forward with like shipping and actually trying to put a purchase through. I don't know.
But you're a tester. What's your job? Your job is to do what?
Making sure that the features work so that the user can actually check out something.
Correct. Yeah, your job is to break the application. So you'll not first try to break it.
I guess.
Well, wouldn't you look? I mean, are you asking like what is the first step
So
as in like as a QA? Like,
first,
be
as a
looking at
QA,
requirements.
you're looking at requirements to do your testing.
Well, we would look for what we need to test, right? Like, if you get, like, for example, if you give me Amazon, I would have to first figure out what is it that I need to test, and then I guess you can also say you can test all the major, like, you know, all the major things like logins and stuff like that.
All the major function, right?
Yeah.
I think the first thing I have to know am I going to do the manual testing or automation testing? Then I going to be do, if it's manual, there is two kind of testing, functional or non-functional. So then I'll test those two way. And if it's automation, I gonna be do also like a two different kind of testing. That I think three different automation. Okay, so and yeah, this I know that.
Sunil, you want to try? Oh, you did already. You said you'll add to cart. Okay. So let me explain to you how. So if somebody says, okay, you know what? How would you test an ATM, right? They said you're a tester, and I give you an ATM, or I give you, you're a tester. I'll give you an Amazon.com. How will you test Amazon.com? You need to do something called black box or system test, right? And what is system test and black box? Those testing is system test is testing overall functionality of the system. However, uh,
Kind
like
of like a hoc test.
kind of like what?
Ad hoc,
Ad hoc testing,
ad hoc, yeah,
ad hoc basis.
ad hoc basis.
Um, yes and no, right? So the main thing is, so you guys should do when somebody says in the interview, they'll tell you, okay, you know what, Shafi, you're good in your let's do, why don't you do system why don't you do I'm giving you an ATM, I'm giving you Amazon.com, I'm giving you this hypothetical scenario. They'll tell you, okay, I'll give you this, how would you test it? Very common interview question. Your attitude should not be, okay, let me show you how I can break the application. Okay, first testing you will do is what? You'll do positive testing, which is called happy path. What does that mean? You'll do what the client you want to see, what if the application is working as the client designed it, as per the client's requirement. Because when you're given an application, so I said as the client requirement, but when there's an ATM, you already know how to use an ATM. If there's a coffee machine, you know how to use a coffee machine. There's a basic knowledge, right? Amazon.com, everybody knows how to add a product to the cart and get it delivered. So your job as a tester is not to go break it first testing. Okay, so it's not going to be like, okay, you know what, I have I just started test. Did you want to say something, Dola, or?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. So first editor should not be like, hey, you know what, let me show you how I can break the application. First thing is you just want to know if it's working as it should. Okay, that's your first job. Your first job is to
Uh,
see.
Sorry, I have a question. Whenever
Yeah, go ahead. What's your question? Yeah, you can ask.
so what's the difference? So what's the difference between system testing and testing? If system testing is overall, just like looking at overall functions of the system, and positive testing is an application working as the clients want it. So how, like, isn't that kind of similar to each other? Because
Right.
kind of like looking at major functions.
Yes. Remember, I told you. Okay, so let me tell you. So system testing, right? When you do system testing, what are you doing? You're testing the application without any knowledge of the system. You're testing BF like a client would use a system. That's why it's called system test. You're testing the system. And what you're doing is, why the reason I said positive testing is within system testing. If somebody gives you an application, you don't go in there and say, you know what, let me show you how I can break the application. Your job is to see if the application is working as designed. That's the first testing you're doing. You're testing to see application is working as designed. Then you can do within system test. System test is overall testing. All the testing you do, ad hoc, regression, that those all fall under system test. They're not like, there's different, they all fall under one testing, which is called system testing. So you're testing this, you're testing the code, the functionality without knowledge. So first thing you're doing is, if somebody says, can you test this product? Well, basically what they do is, remember I said that whenever we get a build from development, what the developer done coding, the CM gives us the code in a package. What's the first thing we're doing? We're doing smoke testing, checking the major functionalities working as designed. How? By three criteria I explained to you guys. Uh, one criteria is mission critical, like what system, which requirement is mission critical to the business, which rule needs to apply. Like in Amazon.com, people should be able to order product, right? That's simple. Like Amazon needs to be able to add a product and get it delivered so you can receive it. So and then you look at heavy throughput, what's being used the most. It's the shopping cart page, like you guys were saying, like Sanil was saying, I'll add to a shopping cart page and I'll see if I can make an order. So that's your main goal. Keep in mind, the main goal is for you to not to, they'll ask you this question: I give you this product, how would you test it? The first thing you're there not to say, let me break your system and show you that, look, I'm very analytical, I'm a very big, I have a number of years of experience and I'm a good tester. No, what you should do is you should check the application that it's working as designed. So clients are building the application for a purpose. So they need to, people need to know that, hey, you know what? The application I just built is working as designed. Okay. Is that clear, guys? Is that clear?
Yeah.
So system testing, yes, it's overall testing, but that's testing like smoke testing, sanity testing, ad hoc testing, regression testing, integration testing. That's all system testing. That's all black box testing. Okay. So so that's all black box testing and system testing. Okay. So and then you'll do negative testing. Okay. You'll do negative testing. 1 second, guys. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So what was it saying? The system testing, right? And so after, that's just then you'll do negative testing. What is negative testing? You'll see if a shopping cart, when you add a product, can it when you does the price change from cart, like different pages, like from you adding it from the, this is very common scenario, like in retail, right? What happens is when you add a promo code, what happens to the pricing? Does it change or does it stay? When you add it till it ends up in shopping cart, does the product d- does the product does the product price stays the same? Does it give you suggestions? So you're testing for a lot, you're testing that, hey, you know what? I added 4 products. What happens to the price? Is it saying sometime the price doesn't calculate properly? Sometimes it does not get add to cart. Sometimes, so you'll leave it. Another thing, and maybe you want to change the quantity. Like you'll do different types of scenario. It's called, remember I told you, one is happy path. What is happy path? Happy path is just for you to do how the system is designed. Okay. And then another thing is um um another thing is, like, you'll do you'll do how the system is designed. Nothing is, you'll do negative testing, right? And negative testing, and then you'll do negative testing. You'll see, okay, you know what happens if I put 0? Does it still add to cart? Sometime, when you put 0, like what was happening is that so we had so so use I mean the doctor, so we found a bug, right, a few days ago. This was on Friday. We found a bug. The bug was, the doctor was going through on the drop down on the laptop. They're going through a drop down of choosing the type of medication they'll give them, like metformin if somebody's diabetic, somebody for cholesterol, edemas, for like, they were just going through the pill so they can prescribe them proper pill. Whatever they were searching, whatever they were going through, it was getting added for the patient, and it was being sent to the pharmacy. Real life defect. So do you think that's a critical defect? Yes, right? Very critical. So the doctor was going through the defect. I'm sorry, the doctor was going through the defect. The doctor was going through the prescription, and all the prescription he was going through was being added in the patient's prescription field in the portal. Okay, guys. So that's, like, your job is to do negative testing, and then you'll do boundary testing. Like, how many product can you, the maximum product you can order? Can you order 100 product at once? Can you order 200 product at once? That's your boundary. So positive, negative boundary. But you'll, if they give you hypothetical scenario, you don't say, okay, let me show you how I can break the system. They might ask you, okay, tell me how would you use the ATM? You guys understand? So they'll ask you, okay, how you use the ATM? How do I use ATM? How everyday use, like people just puts in a card, they take out a money, sometime ATM requires you to leave the card, and then also leave the card and then take out money. So this testing, all you're doing is you're reversing. You're just taking out the card, seeing if the system kicks you out. If not, system does not kick you out. Sometimes if you put $100, if you choose $100 bill, is it dispensing $100 bills? Because ATMs have defect too. Sometimes what whatever you're interacting with ATM, the command you're giving, it's not following through. Did I make myself clear, guys? You guys understood what the point I was trying to make?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So that's your that's and these are they'll come in the interview. They'll ask you, these questions are very common in the interview. They ask you, okay, here's the ATM, here's this, okay, here's anything. You can test anything, but the thing is, like, the more knowledge you have, the better it is. But your job is not there. Okay, you know what? Here's Sunil, Shafi, here's my laptop. Test this. Test what I need to understand. The laptop is designed for me to do certain function. I need to know if I can do this function first. I'm not going to log into the laptop and say, you know what? Wow, let me break the laptop. You understand? Then you'll do negative testing, boundary testing. That's different. And you'll perform different type of testing, okay? Look, testing happens. So the testing takes place, okay? Your testing is done. Testing is, you have here within testing, you have the phases done: requirement analysis, test planning, test case creation, execution, defect tracking, all that stuff, okay? And then you have phase 6, which is product release. And then this, I told you, most of the projects here in the market right now, 95% project is here: maintenance and enhancements. No projects is beginning. You look at Chase, Citibank, Wells Fargo, you look at any stock market, any company, all these applications are already matured. Nationwide hires all the time. Travel insurance hires all the time. Those insurance company been around for 20, 30, 40 years, but they need function added every day. We have a mortgage, the government backed mortgage company like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mae. Freddie Mae hires people every day of the week. They need QA, but it's a very complicated application. People don't understand how like how mortgages work, and behind it's easy to understand mortgages work. There's interest rate, and there's you get a mortgage, a lender gives you, but behind the scene there's so much thing in the application. It's much more complex than what you understand, the basic user understanding. Correct? You're good, Shafi? You understand, right? Any question? Okay, project implementation and notice. So it goes to production and project implementation happens, okay? So now, all right, so let's see. What happened? This thing. All right, so okay, so here, so oh yeah, just let me just okay. Okay, so now we're gonna go to SDLC. Okay, so you guys already know what SDLC model is. I already explained what's the advantage. We spoke about this waterfall, iterative weakness of waterfall, spiral model. So this, look, the thing is, it's all depends on like the application that's being built. Like, so I have a so I don't know how much you guys know. Like, I have another company called Noble Web Designs, and that company, what it does, we build websites and apps, and where mostly we build websites for urgent cares. Urgent care application is, it's complicated. You have to have a patient portal, and there's patient information. They go in the appointments, but it's still easy. We don't follow a methodology. Why? Because I have one developer, or maybe max two developer. Two, the testers is us. We don't need testers. We don't need, the application is not big enough where it needs documentation and things. But like, if you look at, like, you go into enterprise, those projects are huge. They're so big, and the client, like, my with me, like the urgent cares, the application we're building, or like, say, the kebab store, or the restaurants, or the construction guy, or the mom and pop shop, the website building, they don't care. They just want to market their site. They want a website where they can display like a brochure information, and they want to rank it in SC, they want to optimize it to rank it in Google first page. Okay, so in those cases, we don't need a model, we don't need a methodology. The methodology is not needed. Okay, you guys understand? Like, we don't have to follow all this model. These models are the reason these models are available here. These models are these models are good because those applications are huge. It's because of the application, the size of the application. That's why we need this model. We need to test, we need to develop. See, this is why agile is so effective. You discover, you test, you design it, you develop, and then again, same thing, you repeat. The client is involved, heavily involved. Okay, these are some of the some of the positive thing in agile. A lot of companies are using agile. Like, I was giving example, like, with us, like, we're building urgent care application. They're 20, 25, 30 pages. They have, like, but it's still very simple application. They have patient information. They have a simple page where it says, okay, the patient didn't pay, or there's a copay. Patients, if the doctor has if the doctor had a consultation, doctor, writes their note, it shows up next time the patient. It's still very simple application. But if you go to big medical center like the VA, or like the regular medical center, those applications are huge. Those are not like something, those you need agile, you need framework, you need proper, methodology, you need bigger team. Like when I work with Microsoft, our team was 270 people, a huge team. But then I work with a team that's 5 member, that's 4 member, So it really depends the type of application you're working on. Everyone clear? So these are some agile method. Okay, so I think I think Sunil knows. Sunil, you're a certified Scrum Master, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so but most of your Scrum Master question, everything was based on like Scrum methodology, right? That came in on your test.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So also Rashid is a certified Scrum Master, like Sunil is, and Rashid has PMP certification. So you guys have any questions about like taking other certifications? Talk to Rashid. He knows about different type of certifications and how to get them. Okay. So this is some methods in Agile, like RAD, like rapid application development. There's Scrum, there's extreme programming, there's adaptive software development, ASD. There's future-driven development, FDD, crystal clear, okay, dynamic software development method, DSDM, Russia. But I think every company I work for, they all use Scrum. Most company I work for use Scrum. Like I said, sometime like I give you an example. Sometimes companies they have their own framework within Agile. Like we have BIP, which is veteran integrated focus. We don't even have what the VA did is they took the Agile, they made they made their own thing that fits into their own need. They took Agile methodology, kept some terms, but they built something that works for them. They don't really use Agile by the book. So every company is different. A lot more, but most companies they use Scrum. Okay, what's Agile model strengths? So this is some of the example. It delivers work fast. Why? Because this Agile is focused on design, development, production, and then design, development, test, production, and build again. Design, development, test, production, build. Like the example I gave before. Those that's everything Agile focuses on. Uh, that's I think. Hold on, let me see if that was. I was trying to cover this, and then let me see if there's other things I have wanted to cover with you guys here today. I already explained SDLC with you guys. Okay, so um all right. Software development SDLC is done. Okay, so this is another thing I want to cover with you guys. Um Server example, okay. All right, so okay, so here, this is another, okay, so guys, I want you guys to understand how this thing works too, okay? So if, so you have here, okay, so this is, so you guys understand, like this is this is where the testing thing is. We talked about development, development, is there, right? Development have their own, this thing, okay, it's here. Okay, so development have their own, they have their own environment, right? This is their own environment. See, this is the application. The same application, the copy is sent to Deb. and then it's sent to test, and then sent to pre-prod, and then production. Okay. So what does a system testing happen? System testing happens here. See, this is system testing is SQA. This is pre-prod. It's similar to pre-prod staging is similar to UAT, where UAT happens. Okay. Production is mostly all client testing. Okay. And this is, you guys, I think you guys are very, you guys know what, you guys have some understanding how DBA works. So DBAs, they use different type of servers, and there's different version of software servers. So you have developer SQL server, test SQL server, see pre-prod, and then production SQL. See this, the SQL server is broken down into 4 servers. So you have test, see one test here, and then you have production server is here, pre-prod is here, see, and then dev is here. That's how the servers are broken down into. Okay, so and then you guys know, right, what the type of testing that happens in unit. Who can tell me what happens in dev? You guys know already, right? Unit testing happens here. I don't want to jump, but I don't want to focus too much on unit testing because it's not something we do. That's not our main priority, okay? But our main priority is here. So so I have a question, guys. After the developer finishes this code, what is he doing? After developer done this code, what does he do? He's done with writing the code. He gets the requirements. So he's getting the requirements. He has coded. What does the developer do? What do you think he will do, guys?
Develop the software.
He have developed the software. What's his next phase?
Testing it.
Testing, unit test.
Yes, in between unit testing, okay, he's gonna unit test it, but after he's done with unit testing, what is he doing with the code?
He give it to the QA.
He'll give it to the QA.
No, oh no, sorry. He will give it to his I think he need to also review his work.
Right, but he's doing that by doing unit testing.
Yes.
And then what happens after that?
Give it to QA.
He gives it to the QA.
Yeah. Like SQA.
So he's done with this coding, and then he does unit testing, and then he'll give it to QA. You think he'll just pass the code to QA server? So developer is done with the code, right? Developer says, hey, you know what? I'm done writing my code. I have done my unit testing. There's different types of unit testing, right? Also, I'm done with my unit testing. What do you think he's gonna do?
Give it to the CM.
Give it to the CM. Correct, exactly. So you'll give it to the CM. Why? Because if if the developer easily can manipulate his code, there's no point of testing. By the time you find something, he's changing it again. What's the point of him? Why? So that's why we have these 4 servers. See these 4 servers? There's 4 servers. Why does the company have to go in, build 4 different environment, not one? 4 different environment. You have developer environment, you have testing environment, you have pre-production environment, then you have production environment. 4 different server. Understand, guys? So developer is developing the code, right? After he's done, if you find something, you can also so okay. Let me see how much you guys are following. Sometimes the developer will allow you to test in their environment. Why? when your developers allow you to test in the environment, why do you think they'll allow you to test in the environment?
Because I think so they don't need another server.
So they don't need another server. Okay.
Yeah, because another server costs you more money.
Okay, Sunil, what do you think?
Wait, what did you ask?
So the question is, sometime exception, some developers, some projects, they will allow you to test in their environment.
I mean, I guess that depends on like the size of the application and like where the data is linked to, like I guess the size of the data. So because sometimes it's just too expensive to have a very large server, and
Right.
moving things around is a lot more complicated than it's easier to just do it in the same server.
Okay.
Or if I guess they're doing what is it called, like
Or
active testing, where like I guess like like while the developer's doing his portion, like you're testing as they're developing the functions that are coming online.
You want to say something, Shafi, right?
yeah, I think if they let you do on their environment, it's easy to like quick to fix.
If they let you test in the environment, it's quick to fix.
Like,
Okay.
you know, if they're doing something right now and I find their problem, or you know, their, and if I let them know right away and it's quick, they'll fix it.
Okay.
That's my guess. I don't know actually. So
All right. Good guess. All right. So, okay. So first, let me tell you something. I know you guys are thinking about budgeting, but the whole point is the client. I mean, you have a point, Sunil, that sometimes client doesn't want to spend money, but these are enterprise applications. These are used by tens and thousands of users. So they will never take the risk to do this. Not only they have this, they have another server. It's called backup server. It's called recovery server. Do you understand? The application, the same copy of this application is here on deb, on here on test, in here in pre-production, in here again in production. They have one more environment. It's called right here. They'll have the same one. It's called backup. You understand, guys? It's called backup recovery. But that's not what I was going at. I was asking you guys, why would developer allow you to test in their environment? Okay, so this is real from work experience, right? When they allow you to do that, it's because they want you to see the changes that says some tickets. So you found defect, right? But sometimes defects are found by Sunil. You don't know what defect Sunil found, but they'll give it to you to test it, right? Shafi, you know that, right? So the tickets gets fixed. It's not like whatever you find you will test. Whatever you find will be tested by other QA too.
yes.
Okay, so that's number one reason. Number two reason, there's something called production tickets. So issues that clients find, when clients are using the application and it's not working for them. Like I was giving example about the prescription. When the doctors were going through the prescription, they were going down with their keyboard error, and everything they were hovering over, it was going down. It was being added on the prescription page on the for the patient. So that's a big defect, right? But that defect was not found by the SQA team. It was found by the client, by the doctor. Doctor was using the application found these defects. So in this scenario, right? In this type of scenario, what happens? What happens is that you have doctors who are, like who who is using who is doctors that found the issue. So you don't know what the doctor found. You read it, but imagine you can reproduce the issue. What's the first thing you do when you find a defect, guys? Do you know? What's the first step you do when you find a defect?
Inform to PM
You inform to PM.
or develop.
No, that's not the answer. But Sunny, what's the first thing you do? You find a defect. You guys know? The first thing you would do when you find a defect is to reproduce it. Do you know what that means? You have to
Yes,
reproduce it. You have to,
I think reproduce means you have to try it again, or uh,
you have to recreate the defect again to determine your finding is correct. Right, Shafi?
yes.
So whenever you find a defect, your first job is to reproduce it, see that, hey, this is a valid defect. Okay. So the reason developer will allow you to test, because when you get production issues, before he sends you the code, when he sends you the code, what kind of code is he sending you? He- He's sending you the code that's already fixed, right? So you never got to see the issue, what was broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when the developer allows you to test it, what happens to the code? The code is still broken in his environment. So you can actually go to his environment. A lot of so you can actually, so you know, like in our case, we have different servers, right? We have NHM002, we have Chine 37, there's different servers, right? There's a lot of different servers out there. You have so DBA1, DB2, for instance, for example, like you have CS like SQL server, like test server, dep server, you have pre-prod server, production server. So you can change the port number, which is something called you have something called S equals server. So S equals means whatever the server name is. So you have server has like a name, BSIN 2234. You type that in. You have something that these applications, like when you open the folder, they have something called like see, they have like, if you open up the app store, let me see if but they have something called target info. You can put target info for the thing. Okay, guys. So let me try to explain to you guys what this is. Like, so you can actually change it and see what the developer is seeing. Okay, so you can let me show you guys. So oops, what's happening here? Let me see if this is a good example. Okay, so here, okay, so you see this page, right? All right, so here, you guys see my screen, right? Okay, so do you see here, like, you see this, like they have AWS server, right? you can see they have something called like the server name TCP. So sometimes you can change the port. You when you go to the job, if it's a client application, it's a client, but if it's a regular, they'll have an option for you to enter the server and the port number. You guys understand? They'll have an option for you to enter the server and a port number. When you enter the server and port, you can actually access developer environment and see what the issue is broken. So when I used to work for a pension project, right? So what the developer, we were like, I always was curious to see. We used to get a lot of production tickets. We were getting like 10, 15 production tickets. So think about it. We had like 10 team member, but we were finding, sometimes I was finding 100 defects in a week. 100 defect, 200 defects in a week. But top of that, we were getting 10 to 15 production tickets. So how bad the application is. Can you imagine? When you guys go to work, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like this application is broken. Like you're finding so much issue, and then you also the client is finding issue. Like this so this so bad. So you can actually, for you to understand the core, like the where the main reason why there's so many defect, you want to investigate. You have to do analysis. So you want to like is developers will allow you, give you the server name and the port number. Why? So you can see, you can reproduce a defect before they send you the build. Did I make myself clear why the developer would allow you to test in the environment? Because once he sends you the code, it's no longer there, it's fixed already. So there's nothing for you to see. Understood, guys? Sunil, Shafi, you guys there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So did you understand why the developer would ask you? So they might ask you, how did you guys, why did the developer allow you, why are you testing in developer's environment? Why? What's the reason? So did you understand the example I just gave you? It's so you can see the defect that you receive from production before they give you, when they give you the build, it's already fixed. So you're looking at their email saying, hey, this is broken in production, we're unable to do this, unable to perform this. You're testing it. But versus when you're in the developer environment, you configure it, you can add the server number and something called port number. S equals server, P equals port number. You can target your web and your thing and test it. Okay. I think this is a lot of stuff I'm sharing with you guys. It'll be a lot for you guys to observe. So guys, I think this is good for today. It's 3 o'clock. I'm going to send you guys everything I went through, the slides. I'll send you the slides and the screenshots and the recording, okay?
Okay.
And then Rashid Bhai will take tomorrow's class. Same time, 11:30, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sunil. Thank you, Shafi. Thank you, Dola. Take care, guys. I'm ending the call.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.